In a courtroom pulsing with tension and political weight, the state of California and the Trump administration are locked in a legal battle that could redefine the boundaries of federal power in America's cities. The issue at hand, Trump's deployment of 4,000 National Guard troops and 700 Marines to Los Angeles, a move that California claims was unconstitutional, unlawful, and deeply unsettling. The Trump administration, on the other hand, insists the deployment was necessary to protect federal property and immigration agents amid what they called urban instability. But beneath the legal arguments and press conferences lies a deeper conflict, one that touches on the soul of American governance, the limits of presidential authority, and the future of civil liberties in a polarized nation. This isn't just a courtroom drama, it's a political reckoning. And as the trial unfolds, the stakes couldn't be higher. The deployment itself was swift and dramatic. Military vehicles rolled through downtown LA, helicopters hovered over neighborhoods, and armed troops established checkpoints near federal buildings. For many residents, the scene felt surreal, like a war zone had emerged overnight in the heart of their city. Governor Gavin Newsom immediately condemned the move, calling it an egregious abuse of power and a violation of California's sovereignty. He argued that the deployment bypassed state authority, ignored local law enforcement, and sent a chilling message to communities already grappling with fear and distrust. Civil rights groups echoed his concerns, warning that the presence of federal troops could escalate tensions, suppress protests, and undermine democratic norms. The Trump administration, however, painted a very different picture. In statements released by the Department of Justice and the Pentagon, officials claimed the deployment was a response to credible threats against federal property, including courthouses, immigration offices, and law enforcement facilities. They cited intelligence reports suggesting coordinated attacks and argued that local police were either unwilling or unable to respond effectively. Jeanine Pirro, now serving as a senior legal advisor to Trump, appeared on Fox News and declared, "We will not allow lawlessness to consume our cities. This is about restoring order, protecting federal assets, and defending the rule of law." Her words were echoed by Trump himself, who tweeted, "California has failed to protect its own streets. We will step in where they won't." But critics weren't convinced. Legal scholars quickly pointed to the Posse Comitatus Act, a federal law that restricts the use of military forces in civilian law enforcement. They argued that Trump's deployment blurred the lines between military and police authority, setting a dangerous precedent for future administrations. The lawsuit filed by California centers on this very issue, claiming that the deployment violated both federal law and the state's constitutional rights. The case has drawn national attention, with legal experts, politicians, and activists weighing in on what it means for the balance of power in America. At the heart of the debate is a fundamental question: who controls America's cities in times of crisis? Is it the local government, elected by the people and accountable to their communities? Or is it the federal government, armed with troops, intelligence, and executive authority? The answer isn't just legal, it's philosophical. It speaks to the kind of country America wants to be. One where power is decentralized, where states have autonomy, and where communities can shape their own futures. Or one where the federal government can override local decisions in the name of national security. The courtroom itself has become a stage for this ideological clash. California's legal team, led by Attorney General Rob Bonta, has presented a compelling case rooted in constitutional law, civil rights, and historical precedent. They've argued that the deployment was politically motivated, designed to intimidate dissent, and executed without proper consultation. They've presented testimony from city officials, law enforcement leaders, and community activists, all of whom describe the deployment as disruptive, unnecessary, and deeply damaging. One witness, a local pastor from South Central LA, described how his congregation was afraid to leave their homes, fearing confrontation with armed troops. "We felt occupied," he said, "not protected." The Trump administration's defense has been equally forceful. Their lawyers argue that the president has broad authority to protect federal property, especially in times of unrest. They cite previous deployments under Presidents Bush and Obama and claim that California's lawsuit is politically motivated. They've presented intelligence reports, surveillance footage, and internal memos suggesting that federal assets were at risk. They've also pointed to rising crime rates in certain neighborhoods, arguing that the deployment was a necessary response to a breakdown in public safety, but the data tells a more nuanced story. While certain areas of LA have seen spikes, in property crime, overall violent crime has decreased. Local police departments report that they were not overwhelmed and that they had plans in place to respond to any threats. The deployment, many argue, was not based on necessity, but on narrative. A narrative that paints Democrat-led cities as chaotic, lawless, and in need of federal intervention. It's a narrative that Trump has used before and one that resonates with his base, but for many Californians, it's a distortion. A political tactic disguised as a security measure. As the trial continues, the implications are becoming clearer. If the court sides with California, it could reaffirm the limits of federal power and strengthen the autonomy of states. If it sides with Trump, it could open the door to future deployments in cities like Chicago, New York, and Seattle, especially if they're led by political opponents. The decision will shape not just the future of LA, but the future of federalism in America. It will determine whether presidents can use military force to intervene in local affairs, and whether states have the right to resist. Outside the courtroom, the public is watching closely. Protests have erupted across California, with demonstrators demanding accountability and transparency. Civil rights groups are mobilizing, launching campaigns to educate voters and pressure lawmakers. Social media is ablaze with hashtags like #HandsOffLA and #Federal Overreach. The issue has become a flashpoint in the 2026 election cycle, with candidates on both sides weighing in. For Trump, it's a chance to showcase strength and resolve. For Newsom, it's a battle for state sovereignty and democratic values done for the rest of the country. It's a moment of reflection, a moment to ask what kind of democracy America wants to be. One where power is shared, where communities are heard, and where laws protect the vulnerable. Or one where authority is centralized, where dissent is suppressed, and where military force becomes a tool of governance. The courtroom may deliver a legal verdict, but the people will deliver a moral one.